to Astrology in the News for May 7th, 2018. And welcome to my vlog. And today we're going to be covering a lot of really cool stuff. So I hope you had a really good Cinco de Mayo, otherwise known as Phoenix St. Patrick's Day, because that's when everybody gets down. And of course, we always start with yogic wisdom of the day. Close your eyes and imagine the best version of you possible. That's who you really are. Let go of any part of you that doesn't believe it. See Assad. Don't know who that is. So, I am Brad Pitt. Prove me wrong. Pictures don't count. All right. Oliver North to lead the NRA. Good old Ollie North. If you do not remember Oliver North, he was a general in the United States Marines that was charged with trying to sell weapons to Nicaragua in order to get money to Iran-Contras, or the other way around. But basically, there was this whole thing where we didn't like Iran and Nicaragua was under risk of being under communist control. So they did a whole bunch of stuff and they tried to overthrow the Iranian government, and they got caught because they didn't tell anybody about it. So Ollie North was the guy that was in the middle of it. And one thing that he all knows how to do well is sell guns, right? So because he tried to sell guns to get money to fund different things all over the place. So yeah, if you weren't alive during the Reagan administration, this was all over the news in 1986 and 1987, I believe, and it was quite a do about nothing. Of course, here's Oliver North's chart. So one of the things that we know, we do have an accurate birth time for Oliver North, right? So his ascendant is in the first house, conjunct Saturn, and this is in the house of Gemini, or the first house of Gemini. So yeah, Gemini, people that are out of the box thinkers. Now when Saturn comes into Gemini, it actually acts in a different way, and it tends to focus this energy, and it can make it a little bit difficult for a Gemini to express some of that energy, but it really depends on the Mercury placement. So for him, his Mercury is exalted. So the odd thing about this chart here is we really don't see somebody that I would consider to be in the military. So maybe being in the NRA is probably better for him. But the ruler of his chart is Mercury, and it's in its sign of exaltation, conjunct the sun here. So definite leadership abilities. The sun, when it's conjunct and exalted Mercury, it's going to uplift the sun a lot. I also has Neptune here, and this is all in the fourth house. So this is really, the fourth house is about home, what you do at home. Maybe here in the sign of Virgo, he probably runs a very tight ship at home. So I bet his kids are under a lot of pressure to do the right thing all the time. Now, Jupiter is also exalted here in the sign of Cancer, conjunct Rahu and Pluto. So this really adds a lot of intense passion to somebody's speech when it's in the second house. And there's also a little bit of in the sign of Cancer, there's a little bit of emotionality when it comes to the speech. So Ollie North really isn't that reserved of a person. When you hear him speak, he really does project, and he really puts a lot of his effort into his speech. And really, one of the things I noticed about him is he's been a commentator and things like that, and I think he really enjoys that. And that's this Gemini ascendant right there coming into fruition. Let's see, other placements. The moon here is in the sign of Sagittarius. That generally gives a person an all or nothing attitude. And it's also Sagittarius, believe it or not, is also a sign that's somewhat associated with purity, or at least purity of action, whereas Virgo's here more of a purity of thought. So, and this comes into how he chooses a mate, because this is in the seventh house. So Oliver North is going to be attracted to somebody that is has Sagittarian type emotions and influences. So that's going to be optimistic, somebody who's a leader, somebody who takes charge of something, and also to somebody that's going to really be down for the cause. So I think in his case, that would be patriotism. All right, moving on. So it begins. Remember what I said. So I also said in the beginning of this vlog that I would tell you how I kind of predicted this eruption in Hawaii. And so season 2 of Nailed It is out, by the way. That's what really began. By the way, if you haven't seen Nailed It, it's actually a really funny show. It's on what is it? It's on Netflix, and it's really cool because people take these baking goods, and they try to recreate them, and usually they suck. So I really love it. It's actually kind of out of the box for me, but it's a good show. Anyway, so this is the Earth changes chart that I had a couple of days ago. And of course, you're seeing Uranus and Mars here starting to get into a square with each other. That's a lot of stress and friction, okay? Especially in the planet Uranus being in Aries conjunct the sun. Now, another thing that's happening is Uranus is starting to move its way into the sign of Taurus. And when Uranus moves into Taurus, that tends to shake things up a bit because Uranus is a, oh geez, how do I put it? It's erratic, sudden changes, and when it goes into an earth sign like Taurus, it tends to shake the ground. And you can also see this when Uranus transits any earth sign, you're going to see stuff like this. So really, Mount Kilauea is just the beginning. We're going to see a lot more heavy earthquake activity on the west coast. So if you live in an earthquake or volcano prone area, seriously, stay ready for the whole summer because this is going to be a very active summer geologically. Moving on, Jeff Sessions to be held in contempt of Congress. No, really. I guess they were trying to get some documents. So Noonan's is trying to get documents from the Department of Justice, and I guess he's out. He's not getting his papers. So hey, let's hold Jeff Sessions in contempt, right? So it's time to put Colonel Sanders on trial because Jeff Sessions really reminds me of Colonel Sanders. I don't know if he reminds you of Colonel Sanders, but he kind of talks like a combination of Colonel Sanders and Foghorn Leghorn, or Foghorn Leghorn dressed as Colonel Sanders. I'm trying to get the type down. Anyway, Jeff Sessions' chart. So don't have a birth time for him, but what we can do is we can take a look at the transits, and if we use the moon as the first house, first of all, Jeff Sessions is going through his Sade Sate, and the Sade Sate means a transit of Saturn across somebody's natal moon. This is actually a very difficult thing for him because his Sun and Mars are also there. So I'm surprised he actually took this job, and he's in his Saturn dasha now. Even though we don't have the exact birth time for him, since his Saturn dasha started in 2010 or 2011, he's solidly in the middle of his Saturn dasha. So that's going to give Saturn precedence in all transits. And take a look at where his natal Saturn is. It's in the 8th house here, in the sign of Cancer. And actually, Ollie North's chart is there. Saturn is there too. So I think they were born roughly around the same time. So interestingly enough, the Saturn is being activated, and so the Saturn is the house of scandal, the house of difficulty. Now, is he going to actually get in trouble for this? I really don't think so, because when you have Saturn in the 8th house, it kind of protects things a little bit. What it does, wherever Saturn is placed, it puts a damper on things. In this case, what it does is it puts a damper on scandals and things like that. Actually, the 8th house is one of the best placements for Saturn because malefics tend to function well in that 8th house. So the way I see this is I don't think Jeff Sessions is really going to be held in contempt of Congress. I think Trump will just get the documents and that'll be the end of it. But it's just really a power play to get Jeff Sessions to jump, which I don't think he's going to do. And even if he does, he's not going to get into trouble with this. But keep an eye on him because this Sade Sate is going to be a very, very rough transition for him. So, all right, that's all I have today. Smash that like button. And if you want to book a consultation, go to nobigsecretsyoga.com and click on book a consultation with me. Just so you know, consultations with me are a half hour or an hour long. And it's just you and I over the phone or via Skype. I record the whole session, and after it, I send you a recording. And this is at the low price of $80 for an hour and $50 for a half hour, man. That's a really great deal for an astrologer, so I really hope you decide to book. Otherwise, have a great day, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow.